Right, welcome guys. It's a tough day for Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK, because he's now been accused of breaking lockdown rules during the great big worldwide, I guess, collective brain rot that happened. Yes, that's right. I do think that a lot of the lockdown stuff was complete nonsense. I think we've been vindicated on a lot of that by now, but whatever. It is what it is. I'm sure that opinion will make a lot of people irritated and probably unsubscribe. But it is what it is. That's my opinion. You don't have to share it. However, he's been accused, the Prime Minister has been accused of breaking those rules and obviously just being a massive hypocrite as a result of that. So we're going to take a look at this. Please do hit subscribe if you're new here. And please do hit subscribe if you're a returning viewer that's not yet subscribed. So basically, he's been accused of breaking lockdown rules because he hired a voice coach. Now, obviously, that's all during COVID. When we had these things in the UK called tiers, tier 4, it was like the strictest of the strict. No households mixing, nothing was going on, no one was working. It was just, again, collective insanity that essentially ensued. Now, as someone that believes all of that was, again, like a collective brain rot, I don't think any Western nation should copy what China was doing, and yet we did. I'm not for this, right? I don't care that he did that. I do care about hypocrisy. I do care that he did this whilst telling everyone, he wasn't Prime Minister at the time, but obviously, opposition and things like that. I do care that these people have done these kind of things whilst telling everyone else not to. Right? That was one of the greatest failings of Boris Johnson, I believe. And obviously, the Boris wave of a lot of people that just flooded the country. But one of the greatest failings was that he didn't just come out and go, you know what, guys, actually, we've screwed up here. We're not going to copy China. There's, I think it was Norway. Norway in Europe's doing pretty well, actually. They're not doing anything, so we're just going to do that. To be honest, like, freedom's super important. No one, aside from some raging morons and sycophants, would have been irritated by that. Most people would have been like, brilliant, cool. Some people that just wanted free money, I guess, would have been a bit annoyed, but the majority of people would have been absolutely loving it. And it was a huge failing that he didn't come out and do that. Ridiculous. Again, not to say that people who were at risk shouldn't have shielded and things like that, but just general population, shouldn't have been doing any of this. So basically, he hired a voice coach. He hired a voice coach during this time in the strictest of the strict lockdowns. Now, again, not really sure how him having a voice coach is like super, super important under their own rules. I'm not sure how that fits in with the lockdown rules that were in place. I actually shot a short film during this time, and I was allowed because that was an essential. But is it essential for him to get his voice up to scratch? It's not really, is it? I don't see how that fits at all. Now, obviously, we all know politicians are hypocrites. We all know that. They're happy just to say one thing, do another. But here's the rundown. This is from Sky News. It says, Sir Keir Starmer has been accused of breaking lockdown rules when a voice coach came to a Labour headquarters during COVID. The Labour Party has denied the Prime Minister breached COVID rules in December 2020 for employing actress and voice coach Leonie Malinger to help him prepare a response to Boris Johnson's Brexit deal. It was just to make him speak better. I mean, I'd say you probably did, mate. Two Sunday Times journalists, Patrick Maguire and Gabriel Pogrund, said in their book, Get In, what Miss Malinger advised Sir Keir on his speaking style. So excerpts of the book said she qualified for key worker status. How? How's it a key worker? I'm teaching someone not to stutter like a moron. Not, if you do that, that vitriol is directed squarely at the politicians. If anyone, I have a stutter every now and then. No issues with stuttering. But I don't really see how that fits, her doing that for him whilst no one else could do anything. You literally couldn't even go and see dying relatives. You couldn't go to funerals. Like, that's how insane it was. But she can go and help him speak so he can respond to some nonsense Brexit deal. Like, really? Nah, mate. Again, remember, there were people literally dying and they weren't allowed their loved ones around them. Just remember that. You weren't allowed to go to funerals. Remember that. This guy's a knob. So at the time, London and the South East were under Tier 4 restrictions, which meant no households were allowed to mix, and people had to work from home unless they were unable to do so. Conservative former Minister Richard Holden has written to Sir Keir asking whether he thinks he was breaching the law, which I've actually got here. It's quite good, actually. So it says, Dear Prime Minister, on the 2nd of February 2025, the Sunday Times reported on a serialisation on a forthcoming book by Gabriel Pogren and Patrick Maguire that you met with a voice coach, Leonie Malinger, during Tier 4 lockdown. You've said several times that since the first COVID lockdown, you've followed all the rules. You've said in the past that to casually break the rules would have been a mistake, and you said that, quote, I have been clear what leadership looks like. I've not broken any rules, and any attempt to compare a perfectly legal takeaway while working to this catalogue of criminality looks even more ridiculous today. But if the police decide otherwise, I will do the decent thing and step down. This latest revelation proves this is not the case, and you have serious questions to answer. The excerpt in the Sunday Times says he, Starmer, considered his role so essential that Malinger even qualified for key worker status. Oh, right. So you can literally qualify someone as a key worker status because you think it's important? That's nonsense. During the pandemic, she visited Labour headquarters in a mask on Christmas Eve in 2020, advising Starmer as he considered his response to Boris Johnson's Brexit deal. On 24th December 2020, London and the South East of England were in Tier 4 of regional COVID lockdowns. Labour Party HQ at the time was in Westminster. In Tier 4, the restrictions included everyone must work from home unless they are unable to do so. I mean, she could have done this all over Zoom. No households mixing, aside from support bubbles and 2 people meeting in public outdoor spaces. They were the most ridiculous rules ever. Fucking collective insanity. These were restrictions made in law under coronavirus regulations. The coronavirus, the health protection, regulations. A breach of them would be a breach of the law. At the time, the Tier 4 restrictions, not Keir, although he is 2-tier. 2-tier Keir. The sanction at the time for breaching the restrictions was a fixed penalty notice. An offence under the regulations is summary only, punishable with an unlimited fine. Will you answer these questions? Does the Prime Minister think that this is a breach of the law? To clear up any date, will you appoint an independent investigator? I believe this is what happened first from Partygate. Did the Labour Party receive legal advice about how to get around COVID regulations? In this period, did Ms Malinger contract COVID-19? Pretty fair questions, actually, to be honest. Continues further, sorry. Furthermore, the Sunday Times also reports Starmer considered her role so essential that Malinger even qualified for key worker status during the pandemic. However, qualification for key worker status was only relevant for administrative occupations that extended to the essential delivery of the COVID-19 response and those which were essential to public services. The provision, therefore, of a voice coach is not a qualifier. This is set out in guidance at the time. Local and national government, this only includes those administrative occupations essential to the effective delivery of COVID-19 response, essential public services such as the payment of benefits, including in government agencies and arm's-length bodies. Will you answer these further questions? Do you think it would be right for other members of the public to get acting lessons during Tier 4 restrictions? Did you receive legal advice about making Ms Malinger a key worker? There is a strong public interest into your conduct during the pandemic, and it is clear from these revelations that not only have you misled the public, but you had a casual disregard for the law at a time when so many people were making such difficult sacrifices, all in the service of advancing your own political career. You've said, honesty and decency matters. I hope you will treat these questions to you with the same standard you asked of others. I love this. I think this is probably one of the best letters I've ever seen written. Actually, to be fair, like in terms of addressing a politician, it's brilliant. Look, this all not the whole thing was complete nonsense. The whole thing was complete nonsense. But if you're going to stand up in Parliament or on TV or whatever, wherever it is, telling people you must do this, you can't go see your loved ones that are dying, you can't go to funerals, you can't do this, you can't do that, at the cost of billions upon billions of pounds. Yeah, you can fuck off doing this, mate. You're scum.